You are listening to Living with ADHD and CPTSD, available on all podcast platforms everywhere. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Living with ADHD and CPTSD. Today's episode is the complexity of complex trauma and the deficit of attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Today, I am going to be discussing both ADHD and CPTSD, but particularly the strength of each and how it affects what's going on and the complexity of them together in a daily basis. They can be very difficult, as you've known, and getting deeper into how every symptom and every trigger affects my life is very important. And the more I get into it and the further I go down the path, the better it will be, and the more information and the better help that you will have. Now, before I begin, like every other episode, this is created in real time. There is no pausing, there's no editing, there's no script. It's just read from start to finish. So there may be mistakes or errors on my behalf, but that is the raw energy that comes from me. All right, so we're going to discuss first on the episode today is the CPTSD, the complexity of the complex trauma. First off, my parts are very strong. It seems that all the thoughts that I feel are the parts blending with me. There have been multiple negative feelings and reactions that come from them. There's two main issues that I'm experiencing today. The parts are looking for love and praise. And the adult in me, I'm not doing nearly enough. I'm not at all in meeting those needs, and they go looking elsewhere. But the thing is it's not up to other people because they're my parts. I'm the one that has to basically take care of them and make sure that they're looked after and that their needs are met. There are conflicts that get in the way of doing what is being asked of. And the problem is that the parts are very smart, right? Like they tend to do their own thing, and they are very sneaky and very capable of like manipulating and imitating the adult. So what tends to occur is they say things that are very smart, like it sounds very like an adult, but there's always something that kind of gets in the way, right? So the parts, they really feel hurt and alone. It's like nobody wants to listen. And the funny thing is the truth is that as an adult, I'm failing and I'm not stepping up and listening to my parts. And so when you don't listen to the parts, they end up rebelling. They don't trust you. They think that you're not going to do anything for the parts. And that's what is happening with me. So my parts start to rebel. They start to fight, and they start to look for other people to assist. So like my girlfriend, for example, my parts see that I'm not doing what is right. I'm not nurturing them. I'm not talking to them and updating them. I'm not listening and hearing their concerns. And so they like gang up together and say, well, the adult's not taking care of it. He doesn't really seem to care. So we'll find somebody who we think will care, and they see that my girlfriend is the other person in my life, and so what they do is they end up going out there and saying, hey, you help. And the problem is that me not listening to my parts, with them reaching out, what I as the adult don't realize is that it's not anybody else's job. It is my job to look after these parts. And it's so complex though, because each part, as I've probably discussed in the past, they all have their own traumas. They all have their own flashbacks. Not every part is activated at the same time. You can have some parts that will be on all the time. You'll have perhaps a part that is only active in a very particular situation. And sometimes you find parts all the time that are new. You don't even know that they exist. And the only way that you can really get to understand and learn about the part is to sit and first off become unblended with your parts so that the adult is in control. And then you need to listen. You need to discover the name of that part. You need to figure out how old that part is. Like I remember when I used to, when I was discovering a lot of my parts and they were very new, I would be sitting there and I'd be thinking about it and just trying to get a really good understanding of that part and what it's about and when it was born and what created it. Like, excuse me, an incident or incidents that would be occurring in my past number of times would create like the the anger part, right? So I have an anger part that gets frustrated and angry when things are going slow or things are difficult. Like it's really hard to at first even realize that you are triggered with that part, because when you're blended so well with the part, you of course are believing that you are this part and that you are angry and that you're feeling scared or you're feeling frustrated, and then you can say things, you can lash out, you can like say to someone something that's childish while you're angry, call them like I've said things like, oh, just so you know, I'm not blended. Or they'll say like, you're not being fair to me. So they lash out and they say something that's hurtful. And the funny thing is the adult doesn't even have a clue that this is occurring. The adult is in there behind the scenes trying to fight back, trying to regain control of the situation. And when the part is new and I don't really understand where this part's coming from, a lot of times it is very difficult or even impossible to gain any control because they're so strong, and like I've said, they're so smart that they are really good at manipulating, at pretending to try and be the adult. But because they're children though, they have a very difficult time being acting like the adult. They don't know how the adult is, how it thinks. They don't know adult behaviors. It's impossible because they don't have any experience beyond who they are. So if a 6-year-old part is online and is triggered and he's the one that's in control, they're only going to know what that child at that 6 years of age knows. They're not going to know that an adult has the ability to think for themselves or the ability to slow down and be thoughtful, or to pause and like just kind of shut down and walk away. The child part, being a child and being scared, is going to try to get attention or get their way, right? And the problem there is because a child, like any 6-year-old child who's in the store wants a chocolate bar, and the mother sees the child coming up and saying, "Mommy, I want this chocolate bar." And the mother, of course, and immediately is going to say, "No, you can't have that chocolate bar, put it back." And the child, being a child, wants what it wants and doesn't realize that the chocolate is not good for them, or that it's close to dinner, or they just shouldn't have chocolate right now, or like have a fruit, have a banana, have an apple, have a piece of bread, or whatever, like something that's healthier. And the child, all the child thinks is, well, I saw that chocolate bar, I want that chocolate bar now. And so the child will, of course, is gonna try different methods of maybe convincing the mom. So the child will like cry, or the child will yell and say, "I want that chocolate bar," or it will like bargain with the mom, like, I promise that I will only have half of it, and they'll have half of it after dinner. Or they'll like, some kids are really smart and say that they'll give some to mom, or they just get really rebellious, and then they pout and they lay on the floor of the shopping store and scream, or they cry and they don't want to get up, and the mom is constantly calling for the child to get up and come with them, and the kid's like, "No." And then you can kind of see them going pouty and sniffling because they've been crying or they've been yelling at the mom, and they're just not getting their way. And at that age, this is a very common behavior for children, of course, because they don't have the mental maturity to be able to understand, and the fact that they have very little to no ability to reason and to understand the logic in not having a chocolate bar. They can't stop themselves, and if there's no discipline and there's no reasoning with the child, that kid is going to repeatedly do this behavior. Now, an adult like myself doing this kind of behavior is completely inappropriate, but because I'm blended with this part so strongly, there's no way to really understand and to stop yourself, like in your mind going, "Gee, this is not appropriate behavior. Why am I doing this? I shouldn't be saying these things. I shouldn't be saying mean stuff to her. I shouldn't be calling out or yelling or saying stupid things that are like clearly childish." Like I've been in situations where I'm triggered and I'm blended with my part, and we're having a discussion, or at least she's trying to have a discussion with the adult, and it's not going very well. And I'm standing there and I've got like the body behavior of a child, and I'm like moving or grumbling and maybe saying mean things under my breath, hoping that she won't hear it. And the problem is that she does hear it, and so she gets angry, and then the part gets further triggered, or another part comes online, like that. Now that part's going, "Whoa, she's getting angry, something's wrong, you're in trouble, you're in danger, it's time to take over, it's time to defend or fight back and take control." but because the part, of course, is a child part and it doesn't have any capabilities of being an adult, then it will say something that's bad, or say something troublesome, call out and say something that's mean, like, you know it's clear. It's to any other person in the room that I would be talking to, they would understand and see that it's pretty obvious that something's up. Something's kind of weird with me. And the biggest issue, especially today, and this is one of the things that I do struggle with, is understanding and recognizing the blended situation. And I am getting better. It's been a difficult journey to get from where I was a couple of years ago to today. Like in the past, it would be next to impossible for the longest time, literally maybe an hour or even 2 hours, where I would be so blended with the parts that nothing that she would say could snap me out of it. And she would get to the point of getting really angry and yelling at me in order to finally snap me out of it. And then all of a sudden, I would feel like, well, first thing I would feel is I would feel sorry for myself, or I'd be the victim here. So I would be like speaking in 1 or 2 word sentences. Like she would say something to me and it would be like an explanation of what's happening, or trying to show me that I'm acting like a child, that I've said something really rude and inconsiderate, hateful. And all I would say was, okay, I see. Yeah. And it would be very monotone, right? Very dejected, feeling sorry for myself, and nobody else would know it. The only reason that she knows is because she's got so much experience with this. So she recognizes it right away. And she's, saying to me, I think you're blended, or you're triggered. And then, of course, instantly my response would be, no, I'm not. I'm not triggered. What are you talking about? Or I would be like, I don't think so. Like, I don't think I'm blended. It would be an immediate thing, right? Like immediately I would say, and then disagree with her, saying I'm not triggered. And then I wouldn't believe her, right? Like that was the biggest thing, is that I'm not believing her in this whole time. So it's just one of those things that it takes a long time, and it's so complex. Things are so easy for you to get triggered on at times, and because it can be so small and so like complex, and the blendedness of it being with the adult, it's so hard to recognize that you don't even realize until you sit and you think about it and you actually process. Because the biggest deal when you finally become unblended is to go and sit down or take a walk and process with your system. And that, it is a difficult thing, like processing is not an easy step. We all know that. Well, the ones that have done a lot of work, either by themselves or with a therapist, know that processing is not something that just comes naturally. You have to learn how to do it. Okay, I'm going to read an excerpt from a journal entry that I do. I do write a lot of journal entries. It's going to indicate to you people, I'm going to maybe leave a few things out so that I don't maybe step on anybody's feet or like privacy related problems, but I will read it, okay? So this happened in the morning, and I'm going to read until there's no more point in reading about it, but I'm pretty sure you'll get the gist of this. This is something that I wrote earlier last month. I feel very triggered, scared, afraid, worried. I want to go and leave the house. Protect her from my system. I feel like my parts aren't learning or updating. I became triggered this morning when she responded in a way that myself and my parts did not expect. I was not able to do the right thing. Instead of listening and comprehending what she was telling me and acknowledging her, I was being selfish, stupid, saying stuff that made no sense, that was childish and mean. I hate this. I hurt her, and it feels like I have no control over my system. Why can't this get better? I know my system is the cause of it, but why is this still happening? I feel alone. So you can see the frustration and the lost feeling that I had. It's so simple when you think about it and you listen to what I'm saying, but until you've actually experienced it, you don't truly get it. Like, you can say all you want about it, and you can, discuss it and go to your therapist, and he can tell you all the stuff that he will think is important. But the only person that's going to really get it and that's going to understand is you. Until you can get an epiphany or that aha moment, it's very difficult to really get what's happening. So I think you just have to kind of learn on your own. And it may take some time. It's not an easy thing to do. And what you need to do is just be patient, love yourself, don't worry too much about it, and don't allow it to discourage you from processing. And it will get easier. So I suggest just trying to take it easy, trying to relax, and take your time, and know that your parts are going to take some time to get used to this, and they're going to learn, and it's going to take multiple times. Okay, I'm going to read one more excerpt here, actually a couple more before I get to ADHD side of this. So this one is another entry that I made. It's a bit longer, and hopefully it will show you some more sides of my struggles with CPTSD. And there is a bit of ADHD related information in this reading as well. So enjoy. Okay. The last few days have been tough. My system is fighting back, but as child parts do. I seem to be progressing into another step in this process, and now I am resorting to feeling sorry for myself. My question is, why? I don't notice that I am doing it. I really thought I was tired. Although, is it possible that I feel sad? Afraid, maybe? The one thing I am sure of is that I am not being an adult in these situations. My system is being triggered easily lately, but why? There are parts expressing to me their thoughts. This is important. Before I continue, you gotta realize that this is a very important step in updating your parts. You have to listen to what their concerns are, because if you don't, there's no way to really make progress with your parts. Okay, I'm going to continue. These are the parts expressing to me their thoughts. They're not feeling safe. I'm not looking after them when they feel in danger. They have no choice but to fight back. Fear takes over and the adult gives up. Parts believe I am just not good enough because I am always screwing up. They need to speak because I'm not vouching for them, but they're children. I seem to be second-guessing myself often, if not always. Feelings of anxiety are immediate when she gets up, because my system feels all worried, like she won't love me today, ignore me, or pretend. My system is afraid of being alone. I hate my past. Feel regret, disappointment, anger towards myself, the choices that I've made, and being angry for not making the correct choices. Also, I am angry at those who failed me, who didn't help me, who only hurt me, told me that I am odd or weird, stupid, I'm not good enough. Sometimes I am angry with the world. It doesn't care. It only wants my money. It doesn't really want to help me. This is why I am by nature unwilling to look at people who I don't know or trust. My system believes in some way they'll ultimately hurt me if I allow them into my life. They'll be like the others in my past. This also explains the pouting behavior, the disappointed behavior. My system thinks when she gets upset at me that she is turning into those who feel like I am weird, odd, or not good enough and stupid. So the parts feel devastated and alone and abandoned. It triggers my system. My system then feels what others have felt. It's believing what it was repeatedly told again and again by people in my past, so it acts like the way others have felt. So what this is basically showing is that due to all the repeated trauma and all the triggers that I'm experiencing and all the abuse from the people in my past, my system quickly believes that this is true. So instead of being like, I'm going to fix this, this isn't appropriate, I need to do some processing. The adult who's blended, of course, says things like, oh, they're right. I'm no good. I'm stupid. I'm alone. I'm not good enough. There's no point. Why should I even bother? This is the kind of behavior that becomes quite a normal thing with people who have CPTSD, because they don't see the point in going on, or they feel that it's just too hard. There's just no way. It's a difficult thing to deal with, and it's not something that's going to go away, and it also isn't something that takes little effort to improve in your life. You need to make things better, and you need to do it in a way that is easy for your parts to trust you. It's not easy, I know. I've dealt with it for such a long time now that getting any sort of progress takes a lot of work, and it takes a lot of messing up and making a lot of mistakes. But without those mistakes, you don't know how to get better. Because if you think you're always right or you're never wrong, there's no way of learning. So next is talking about ADHD. Not something that anybody loves to have to deal with every day during their life. So ADHD, as we've discussed a number of times in previous episodes, can be very frustrating. It has so many different levels that it can affect a person that you just don't truly get it. It's impossible, but you can learn to cope with the symptoms and improve your life. Now, the one thing that you soon learn is that medication is only a small part of it. I remember when I first started taking medication, I kind of had this false buildup of hope that I believed that the medication could make most of it really just go away. But the funny thing is, I don't know if it's necessarily funny, but the thing is about medication is it only really affects things like improving your focus. It's not going to make you remember. It's not going to, eliminate all the other things that can occur. And it only does so much. So you need to take it upon yourself to get assistance. You can get an ADHD coach, someone who is an expert and has a lot of training related to ADHD. They can assist you in training, learning like coping methods, tools. They teach you different tools that you can use to try and make your life easier. You just can't use it as an excuse. Some people do, and they don't really get anywhere in life because that's all they ever say. And then it's like their line is well, sorry, but it's ADHD. As if they're saying that's just the way it is, too bad. And in all honesty, that's only going to get you so far. Now, I have a lot of symptoms that ADHD creates in my life. I'm definitely impulsive. I am not great with time management. I have a lot of problems focusing on a task, especially if I'm not really into it. I definitely have problems with multitasking. So often, if I'm doing something like work and someone is talking to me, it's very difficult for me to listen at all to what that person's talking about, and I end up remembering hardly any of the information that they've told me. I do have a tendency to have an excessive, be excessive with activity and a lot of restlessness. My foot, I don't even know that I'm doing it 9 out of 10 times during any part of the day but I'll be sitting in the chair and I'll be watching TV, or I'll be like talking with my girlfriend about something and my foot will move, just a quick back and forth movement over and over and over. And I don't even know that I'm doing it. And she immediately goes, "Your foot, stop it." She jokes around about how she'll cut it off, or she pokes me or something. And I suddenly go, "Oh, yeah, sorry, my foot's moving," and the problem is that we can't, or we have a very difficult time seeing that is happening. And we're going, oops, or you get a little frustrated because your foot keeps moving. So I have that problem. I'm really poor at planning. I have this hard time planning my day, or planning like the step by step of the evening, like after work, or on a Sunday morning or afternoon, and we're trying to make plans, go get groceries, go to the store to look at new plants, take care of some chores. It's the actual planning and having it put into motion can be very difficult, and it causes a lot of frustration within my girlfriend, and it can also, with myself as well. And that's where having a low frustration tolerance plays in. That's another one of those symptoms. You can get frustrated easily, it takes really nothing to get frustrated. You're doing something and you suddenly go, "Oh, damn it, I forgot." You're doing something and you get distracted by another task, or you're doing laundry and you forget to take your laundry basket up back to the room because something that you saw or something that popped up in your head all of a sudden. And the funny thing is, it can be something completely irrelevant to what you're doing with the laundry. And I've had this happen, and I suddenly go, "Okay, I'm gonna go do that," or that sounds really interesting, so I go and take care of that thing, and all of a sudden 3 days later, my laundry basket's still sitting down in the basement, and I'm like, "Oh shoot, yeah, right, I gotta go get that," because my clothes are kind of piling up in the closet. But like usual, I I say, oh, I'll go take care of it later. I'll worry about it later. And I don't, because, you're doing something else. So like I'm working, or I'm taking care of dinner, or I'm about to take the dog out for a walk. And, you forget about it. And you come in later and you never think about it for the entire evening. And the only time that it ever comes back up in your mind, like for me, is opening the closet door and going, oh, shoot, my basket's not here. Right, okay, I should go get that. But then you're getting ready for work. You're getting dressed, you're putting on your work clothes, you're getting ready to go out the door, and immediately you stop thinking about going to get the basket, and it waits another day. You literally have to just stop yourself and say, no, 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 no. Get it now. So you got to force yourself to go downstairs and get that damn waste basket, or that laundry basket, and bring it upstairs and put it away. I don't know how many times I've done that. Sometimes I'm really good. I take it downstairs and I throw my laundry into the washer, turn it on, and I grab the basket and take it up. But then most of the time, I forget it downstairs. And it's not because I don't want to bring it up. It's because something in my brain that I saw on the way downstairs, or a thought that all of a sudden came up out of nowhere, distracts me, and I leave it downstairs. It's very common to have something like that occur. Now, stress is very high, obviously, because of this, and I get easily frustrated, and I'm feeling down, or I'm feeling so angry. And the one of the things that I always have a problem with is I have an emotional regulation problem. I can get very irritable, or very extremely happy, right? And it's like, to the normal person, being happy can last for 5 seconds, where they gonna go, woohoo, that's great, and then they can regroup and focus back on what was happening before. Where I've got excited about something that I really like, and it seems like I can't stop thinking about it, and I can't stop talking about it. And I go on and on and on and on about the whole thing. Hey, yeah, this is really cool. Yeah, this is so great. I love it. And then I may, probably stop talking, but my thoughts are still on the exciting thing, and I'm kind of off in a daydream and thinking about it, and manifesting ideas and thoughts about that exciting thing. And you completely you're oblivious to the rest of the world. You're not aware that the world's moving. You're probably not aware that I'm like, when I'm in the store, I'm not aware that I'm getting in the way of people, that I'm slowing them down, that they can't get by me in the aisle. There was this time where I realized that I had the wrong item, and I wanted to change it in the store, the little display, and I kind of got stuck. It's a common thing with ADHD. You get stuck. And my girlfriend's standing there looking at me going, what the heck are you doing? Eventually she says something. She says, get out of the way. You're in the way of this person. You don't even know it. And I'm like, oh, sorry, or I don't even say anything, and I just kind of move out of the way, like as if I'm off in space by myself. And she gets upset at me and says, what the hell? Why, you got in the way. You were trying to grab something, and you were pausing and thinking about it for too long, and you got in the way of someone behind you. And that person, is too afraid to say something to you. And so I had to speak up. And, you kind of feel bad. You feel like ashamed, and you feel sorry, because you're like, gee, I did it again. I couldn't focus. I got distracted. All of a sudden I'm going, gee, well, I'm sorry. I didn't know. It's not one of those things that you and people with ADHD, it's hard to deal with because your brain is all over the place, and your ability to focus on something at any point is hard to do. Now, I know that there are, well, most of us out there with ADHD, focusing / attention is one of the biggest problems that people who, like us, who have ADHD have to deal with on a daily basis. Hell, on an hourly basis, because it's something that we, struggle at all the time. You're like, I remember, I still do. I'd be watching a TV show on Netflix, and I would literally have my tablet sitting to the left of me. I'd have my phone sitting to the right. There would be stuff going on. I'm literally trying to watch the TV show, read a forum, and looking at YouTube videos on my tablet. I get it. To ADHD people who suffer from ADHD, that's a very common thing. Not a surprise. But to a neurotypical, like my girlfriend, I'm sure they're going, how can you do that? That's just crazy. Like, like in astonishment, they're staring at you, just going, I don't get it. I don't understand. And it's true, they don't. You've got to have compassion for yourself in situations like this. It's not right and it's not fair to get hard on yourself and get angry. I know that it's tough for a lot of us because of the fact that we do have that like low frustration tolerance, and some of us suffer from frequent mood swings. It is hard to not get angry with yourself and feel down and feel bad and want to be alone. Like my ADHD, it's often causes me to be afraid to say things to people or to talk to people, or afraid to do things, to be part of the crowd, to be involved in a conversation. I remember back in my past when I'd be around my family, like extended family, 20, 30 of us, and I would often sit just kind of in the background, just listening, getting distracted, not always focusing, and just smiling, having fun, not really being part of the conversation. And there'd be the odd time where that kind of thing would come up, and I just would say, I just like to be in the background. I love to listen. I'm not much of a talker. And there's a lot of truth to that, because I have a hard time focusing and remembering what I'm talking about. And I often make mistakes and say the wrong thing or mistake a word for another word. And if nobody knows that you have ADHD, it can often create feelings of like, what the hell's wrong with that person? And you can lose friends. You can, they say that emotional regulation is one of the biggest causes of ADHD people to lose friends or relationships, because they easily get frustrated with themselves and with their friends, and they get angry, and they have, well, that low frustration tolerance comes into play, and you say things to your friends that are impulsive and can be inappropriate, because you don't have the ability to stop yourself in the middle of that thought. You think it, and the very first thing is you say it out loud, and it could be childish, it could be mean, it could be rude, and it could even have little sense to no sense at all to the current topic or to what you're talking about. And people, a lot of times if they don't know what you're dealing with, can say, well, to hell with you. You're being rude and you're being mean to me, or you just sound stupid or a moron. I'm not going to hang out with you anymore. It's a very real thing, and it's very frustrating and very scary. And it can be very hurtful because it's difficult to keep it under control. I know a lot of you understand that. I have that problem all the time. I'm very fortunate that I have a very loving and caring and extremely understanding girlfriend who puts up with it, but only to a point. She's not just going to give me a free pass every time this occurs. I'm at the point in my ADHD life where I'm trying to find tools and methods and ways to adapt, to cope with this. Instead of just saying, oh, I have ADHD, that's just the way it is, I have to learn how to retrain my mind. I have to learn to use external means of reminding me or to help me get through things that are difficult. It's one of those things that you have to do on your own. You can't have anybody else, make you do it. I do often have problems with keeping quiet and at the same time speaking out of turn. I did that in school a lot. I was always trying to say something, always had an opinion. Often I would blurt out responses. I would often, I'm really known for interrupting people and completing their sentences or thinking I know what they're going to say. Sometimes I do, but a lot of times I don't know what they're going to say. It's kind of a hit and a miss, but it's a symptom of ADHD that I often deal with, and you can really annoy people because if you do it all the time, they're soon going to get irritated with you, and then you're going to get angry. And for someone like me who also suffers from CPTSD, that can be a trigger. See, there's the complexity of these two disabilities playing on each other. It's one thing to have ADHD and do things like blurt out of line or speak out of turn or say things and make it goofy or silly or like being impulsive. But then when you also have parts that are playing a role in CPTSD, you're gonna, like, I often get triggered when something like saying the wrong thing causes my girlfriend or, like in the past, my father to do something or say something that was angry or hurtful, and I would have a flashback and I'd get triggered and be blended with my parts. So now you've got to deal with a second thing. Not only are you dealing with ADHD, now you got to deal with being blended with your parts, and now you've got to unblend and listen to your parts and do some processing. So it's a double-edged sword, and it's really tough. Like, can you imagine having to do both? Not just trying to learn external sources and tools and help to deal with your ADHD. Now you got to realize that, like, I have to realize that I could get triggered by anything. Like, and it doesn't even have to be related. That's the difficult part to understand here, is I can get triggered by things that aren't even related to, like, past trauma experiences in my flashbacks. And that's what makes this so complicated. I hope you understand and realize that ADHD is definitely not an easy thing to deal with. Even from a neurotypical's point of view, when they see someone who has ADHD or they know somebody who has it, they just can't really understand as much as we are able to that this ADHD really makes our life extremely difficult and very frustrating. And you have a tendency to be alone. And people don't want to, often be friends with people with ADHD because they can be childish, they can be frustrating. They seem like they're all over the place. Like they're just talking about this and then talking about that and then talking about something else, and they never shut up and they never listen and they never think about what the other person is saying. They're always about me, right? It's like a one-man show. And the fact that so many people out there don't really have a good grasp on this whole ADHD, it makes life very hard to deal with. And we're often depressed and feeling sorry for ourselves. We don't go out because we're afraid of showing people that we have ADHD. I know I do that. I do that all the time. I'm afraid to do things. I don't want to be a part of something that requires listening or talking about it and comprehending and trying to have a discussion that makes sense and is also mature. It's difficult for me, so I often avoid stuff like this. And I'm sure a lot of you out there have done the same thing. You do have a good understanding of what you're bad at or what you are poor at because of ADHD. So you often try to avoid even allowing these symptoms to occur. And to neurotypicals, you often seem to be as if it's like a loner or antisocial or childish or like incapable of being serious or having any kind of a real discussion. And they're very compassionate to a point, or they just don't care and they want nothing to do with you. It's not easy. I will tell you that right now. All I ask is that you get some courage, have a little patience with yourself, and try not to allow other people to make you feel like dirt, make you feel not worth being alive. You're a good person. You deserve to be happy like everybody else. It's just going to be a harder thing for you to do. It takes someone with ADHD way more energy and time and effort to do things right than a neurotypical. I do it all the time. I often end up being super tired by 5 o'clock because I take so much effort and so much energy to do the things that a normal person can do without any effort that it is exhausting. It's one of those things that I just deal with. I just say that's just the way it is. One thing you can do to help, and I do this often every day, is exercise. Go out and have a good long walk. Push yourself. Do something you enjoy. Whether it's drawing, swimming, running, playing sports, going biking, heck, go fly a kite, do something that takes your mind off of this thing. And try to find a friend or a ADHD coach who can help you with these things, help you understand and learn how to deal with it in a better way. Find the right tools, find the right external resources to assist in making your life feel easier. I definitely recommend looking. I live in a place that's way up north in Canada, and we even have ADHD coaches that you can get in touch with that can do all the things that you desire. And they're very adaptable and they're very friendly and very open to wanting to help. That's what they're there for. Okay, guys, this is definitely a long episode. I did talk about 2 different things today. I hope you really enjoyed this episode of Living with ADHD and CPTSD. And I will be back, of course, next week with another episode. So until then, have a great weekend. Be happy, stay strong.